You know, we talk about AI all the time, especially in business. But what if the way we're talking about it, the very ideas we have, are just plain wrong? Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to pull back the curtain on what's being called the AI illusion and really dig into why our biggest ideas about this tech might be built on, well, a pretty shaky foundation.
All right, so here's the game plan. We're going to start by giving this problem a name, a really interesting new term. Then we'll play detective and follow the researchers who figured out the hidden assumptions we all make about AI. And finally, we'll talk about why any of this actually matters for the future.
Okay, first up, let's try and put a name to all the confusion swirling around AI. Researchers have pointed out a really big risk here. They're saying our whole idea of AI is becoming what they call HEMBIG.
So what on earth is HEMBIG? Well, it's a concept that's everywhere. It's dominant, right? But at the same time, it's super vague and covers way too much ground. It becomes this slippery idea that's almost impossible to pin down. And that, right there, is exactly what's happening with AI. We all say AI, but are we even talking about the same thing? Probably not.
And here's why that vagueness is so dangerous. We start talking about AI like it's this standalone thing, right? A brain in a box that just does stuff. But thinking that way makes us totally ignore the giant messy web of people, data, and real-world processes that make it function. It is never, ever just the algorithm. It's the whole shebang.
So, how do we get out of this HEMBIG mess? Well, the researchers behind the paper we're looking at today did something really cool. They didn't just rehash what everyone else was saying. Nope, they went deeper. Their goal wasn't just to pile up more knowledge. It was to problematize it. That's a fancy word, but think of it like this. It's like they're playing Jenga with the entire field of AI research. Instead of adding a block on top, they're looking for that one wobbly block at the very bottom, the unspoken assumption, and giving it a poke to see if the whole thing comes crashing down. They're asking, hey, why do we all believe this in the first place? It's basically intellectual detective work, for real. They zeroed in on the most influential management papers from the last decade or so. And they were combing through them, looking for clues. You know, the shared beliefs that nobody ever really says out loud, but everyone just kind of accepts. By finding those hidden assumptions, they could start to draw a better map.
Okay, so what did our detectives find? What was the smoking gun? They discovered that almost all of our thinking about AI, especially in business, comes from one single incredibly powerful idea. They call it a root metaphor. So a root metaphor is basically the core image that secretly shapes how an entire group of people thinks about something. It's like a pair of glasses you don't even know you're wearing. And for AI, the glasses we're all wearing are, well, they're really weird and paradoxical.
And this is where it gets really interesting. There's this massive tension, right? On one hand, we see AI as human-like. It learns, it solves problems, it seems like one of us. But on the other hand, we see it as totally alien and artificial. It's got superhuman computing power, it's unbiased, it's better than us. So which is it, human-like or alien? These two ideas are in a constant tug-of-war in our minds. So, this central paradox, this root metaphor, leads to two huge assumptions that we all make. Let's tackle the first one, the assumption of rationality. This is a big one. It's the belief that AI is basically a better version of a human brain. You know, it's purely logical. It doesn't have our messy emotions or cognitive biases. We kind of see it as the key to making perfectly logical, data-driven decisions every single time.
And you see this pop up in a couple of ways. First, we just assume it has computational superiority. It can crunch numbers and see patterns that no human ever could. And second, we assume its decisions are totally objective. That's where you get ideas like algorithmic control, right? Let's have an AI manage the warehouse or set employee schedules because, hey, the machine will be fairer than a human boss. Or so the thinking goes.
But, and this is a huge but, there's a massive flaw in that logic. The paper nails it. AI isn't born rational and objective. It learns from data that we created. And what's our data full of? Yep, our biases, our history, our flawed logic. So this perfectly rational machine can actually end up just inheriting and even amplifying our own imperfections. Garbage in, garbage out, right?
All right, so that's the rationality side. Now let's flip to the other side of that paradox, the assumption of anthropomorphism.
Basically, this is just our habit of treating AI like it's a person. We can't help it. We give it human-like qualities, we say it has intentions or that it learns, when really, it's an incredibly complex system of code and data doing its thing.
And you can hear it in the way we talk. The words we use are a dead giveaway.
We say it learns, reasons, understands. We talk about it having agency. These are words we used to only use for people. We say we collaborate with it, or we need to trust it. It's really telling.
And that brings us right back to the central contradiction the paper points out. How can we have it both ways? How can we expect AI to be this perfectly rational, flawless, unbiased machine, while at the same time we're treating it like a human, with all the human-like qualities and potential flaws that implies? These two ideas just don't fit together. They're fundamentally in conflict.
Okay, so where do we go from here? The great thing about this paper is that it doesn't just point out the mess we're in. It actually suggests a way to clean it up.
Essentially, the call to action is this. Researchers in business and management need to stop just borrowing ideas from computer science. Computer science is great at explaining what the tech can do, but what we really need are our own theories that explain how this tech actually works inside real, messy, complicated human organizations.
And they lay out two clear paths for how to do this. Path 1. Study the assumptions themselves. Ask questions like, how does our belief in AI's perfect logic affect how much we trust it? Path 2. Figure out the boundaries. When and where do these assumptions actually make sense? And when do they just completely fall apart? It's about getting way more specific and contextual.
And look, this isn't just some academic exercise. This matters for all of us. Because the stories we tell ourselves about AI, these metaphors and assumptions, they have very real consequences. They shape how we build our companies, how we design jobs, what we expect from this technology, and how we end up working with it every single day.
So, at the end of the day, by dragging these hidden assumptions out into the light, we can finally start to move past all the hype. We can ask better, smarter questions, and we can start building a much more realistic and hopefully a much more productive relationship with this technology. So that leaves us with the big question. If AI isn't a perfect godlike machine and it's not a new kind of human, then what is it?